Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Experience. And we have part 2 of our conversation with Michael Weir.
Hello,
Welcome,
everybody.
Michael. And so last time we were riffing so much on all of our fun conversations and the wonderful adventures that Michael gets to take in his work as a healer, that healer, hypnotherapist, connector with divine, the list goes on and on. But Michael's really the go-to guy for, I know, people like me, hypnotherapists. I know people who are in movies and TV and people who aren't supposed to be doing anything in the woo realm go to Michael to help clear attachments and negative crap that people collect in the course of their life. And so I want to drill down into that, into the nitty gritty. And so let's do it.
All right. Excellent.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So go ahead.
Do you want me to cue you? Hit me with your questions. Yeah.
So the real exciting stuff that I think you all, my audience, want to know is about devils, demons, and aliens. And let's first, I want education around that, and I want just a point of view that will help them to mitigate the fear, and then what they can do about what they're picking up in their life.
Okay. So I have no idea about any of that. No, I'm just teasing you.
The end.
You look on your face and be like, what? That was great. So anyways, I pretty much check everybody that I'm working with, everybody that comes in for any reason at all. I can generally feel when people have attachments, but not only do I want to know what kind of attachments that they do have. Like, there's demon attachments, there's entity attachments. The demon attachments generally start out as causing depression, anxiety, things of that nature. But
how do people pick those up?
Actually, just by existing. I mean, you can pick them up in your home. You can pick them up around people, off of people. You can pick them up pretty much anywhere.
They're just like energetic hitchhikers.
Yes. And do they go to absolutely everybody? No. But I found more people than not working with people. It's very, very unusual that I have somebody come in that has nothing at all, nothing attached to it.
I think that would surprise people. I bet that would surprise
people. Oh
people.
my gosh, it's amazing, because a lot of people who are walking around with all the attachments, so that's actually the very first thing that I do in everyone's session is find out, do they have them? And get them off of them, because then I need to know how long have they been with them, and how much of that had to do with whatever issue they came in for. Sometimes our session's done at that point because they're like, 100% of my depression was caused from that. That's been with me this many years. They know it all subconsciously. Consciously, they don't have any idea it's even there.
Right.
Or some people have an inkling. Like, some people will have nightmares. They'll feel something's wrong, but they don't know what it is. They don't know for sure what's going on with them.
Do you think, and I want to stick with this for a little bit, do you think that people who are thinking about fearful thoughts about, like, if I open myself, I see this in my sessions around fear, if I open myself up to my extrasensory capabilities, will there be demons and attachments and that kind of thing? Like, are there things that we're thinking and doing that somehow make us more susceptible, do you think?
The only thing I've really noticed is people who had big plans for doing good things for society seem to get attacked more. People who are in the helping profession, like my daughter and I, constantly getting attacked all the time.
And how does that show up for you?
It's just stupid. Well, right away I can tell when I get an attachment, and I'll clear them. So attachments have free will too, whether it be entity attachment or demon attachment. And more, I'm kind of glad that more are wanting to go in the light, I'd say in the past 3 years than in the past. And back before that, like say 10 years ago, it was really, really hard to talk like any demon attachment to go into the light. It took a lot of convincing to get it to go. And then they also have free will, so they don't have to go into the light. So the areas that they can go, they can, that I know of anyway, so it could be other areas, but they could go into the light because they all have a rightful place. They can go to their perception of hell. They can go to another dimension and be locked up in another dimension, or they can be unmanifested. So unmanifesting is when you're actually uncreating them from time.
I love that.
Yeah. And that also works with ailments too. Like my daughter had anxiety that was no longer connected to anything but her personality.
Wow.
And so
would you call that an attachment?
Kind of, sort of, I guess, in a way. It's a different kind of attachment. But that was really probably the scariest thing that I've ever done working with anyone, because her soul said, you can, because I asked her soul about unmanifesting anxiety, and they said it's going to take a lot of hours for you to rebuild everything and put it all back together again. But as long as you rely on the Holy Spirit to do it, we can do that. And she had massive anxiety, so it really was a no-brainer that we had to do it. But it went all the way back into her early childhood in this life, the anxiety. So when I unmanifested the anxiety with energy, basically her whole personality was splintered, and it took 5.5 hours with energy to put everything back together again.
It's like unwrapping something with one thread. That's like the anxiety was a thread, and you had to just like take apart the entire sweater or whatever, and then put it together.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Like,
so did she manifest in this lifetime as someone with the characteristic of anxiety, and then it's sort of like going back to the beginning again and reconfiguring the soul plan without anxiety?
She's pretty much always had it in this life, that and depression and tremendous gifts. Like she has really, really strong gifts. She can talk to animals easily. She can go back into people's past lives at will and work through things.
She's working, and she's 15, right?
Oh yeah. So ever since she was little.
Healer. Wow.
Oh yeah, ever since she was little, she's able to see on different dimensions. I can feel, so I'll feel a presence, like in our house, and I'll be like, I'm feeling, and she goes, it's over there, and she can see what it is, and so I'm able to interact and clear and move things. But it's really cool because she sees, I feel. And always, like when we're out somewhere, I can always tell. I'll feel it right before she'll see it, and she'll describe it and where it's at. But I can even say to her,
"Wow!"
Like, say if I'm feeling it over to the right, I can say, "I feel," and she'll go, "It's on the right." So, and I'm like, "Wow, that's so cool." So it's like constant confirmation.
What a cool team you guys.
But anyways, when we after that 5.5 hours. She's like, oh my gosh. She goes, this is amazing. She goes, like, there's no anxiety left, like at all. And she had it massive. So she was very, very grateful. And she said, there's a lot to that unmanifesting, besides just doing it for demons. Yeah, it works for demons. But besides that, that's really, really cool that you can use it on other stuff, and don't, basically she's always giving me spiritual smackdown all the time.
Kids, gotta love them.
Yeah, you gotta love them. It's like she said to me the one day, she's like, so was it about 5 years that you earlier when you knew that you were supposed to leave mom, you felt it inside? And I was like, thought about it, and I was like, yeah, that's about right. Just don't ever do that again. When you know inside your soul's telling you to do something, you need to do it.
Don't
Because
wait.
what's happening is you affected all kind of different timelines for all kind of people by trying to be nice.
Mm.
You know, don't do that shit again. So I was like, okay.
Wow, from your daughter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so the little plug in here is listen to your little people.
Oh my gosh.
They are
Listen to your
so
little
wise.
people. They
Yes.
are just incredibly, incredibly wise.
Oh
So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So she goes to a performing arts charter school, and she will pull all of the, because she's not able to, not that she's not able to, but for some reason she insists on not trying to get rid of stuff.
Mm.
So she'll pull it off of everybody at school. So in her own words, she's a raving bitch when I pick her up at the bus stop, and I have to clear her right away, and then she's back to normal.
Wow. So she's clearing at school for the collective. That's gotta be, that's gotta be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
But anyways, it's amazing. The more you get to do this work, the more it becomes kind of like, it's just part of your life, you know? Like I know all the time that people will call up with attachments, and I'll work with them and get rid of them. And generally it doesn't take too long either. Generally it's pretty fast. And even like, the one child that I've worked with is an autistic child, and he was basically kept hitting himself, and they said, you know, that's what the particular type of autism that he has is. It's really known for that. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm tuning in and I'm like, nah, those are attachments. You know, those are definitely attachments that's causing that. So when I would clear him, his mom would say, he said, tell Michael thank you. And he said, the angels told me that I don't hit myself when he gets all the bad stuff away. Wow. So I was like, yeah, because it was not just a behavior. It was generally people who are autistic, and also people that we consider mentally handicapped are real evolved souls here for teaching unconditional love and raising the vibration of humanity. In fact, I had a lady years ago who was a client who was channeling, and she said, there's a little boy who's mentally handicapped that needs to talk to you. And I said, sure. And he said, I just wanted to say thanks. He said, because we're all here teaching unconditional love. Number one, we teach it to our caregivers, and we came in to be telepathically linked without the problems of a normal person. So we don't have to worry about having a job, doing a 9-to-5, doing all this stuff. He said, we constantly are working on teaching everyone unconditional love. And we basically put it out into a giant web around the world that people can tune into when you're really focused on love and you're writing about it or thinking about it. And he said, you often tune into our network. Wow. And a lot of your writing is from us. And I was like, oh, wow, how cool is that? Thank you so much. Wow. And so I was very, very grateful.
Not only are we getting support from the non-physical beings that are not embodied, but we're getting support and downloads from those who are here and creating that matrix of love light on the planet.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, really and it's so wonderful to find out all these things that are happening, and it's just, I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
It is. And so we're going back into the light. See what we do? But I want to stay. We're going to stay with the shadow.
Okay. So back to the dark stuff. All kinds of things that can be caused by having both entity and demon attachments. Like I said, besides anxiety and depression, overall.
Tell the difference, but is there a way of telling the difference between a demon attachment and an etheric attachment entity?
Oh yeah, you just ask under hypnosis. Or people could just douse for it themselves. It's like when I clear people, I don't have time to clear everyone every day. Mm-hmm. Like I can't add people to a giant list. So I'll teach people to where to go to get the knowledge. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of Raymond Grace?
Well, through you.
Okay. All right. I did tell you that.
Yeah.
So Raymond Grace is somebody who's gotten very famous for teaching dowsing. He's like one of the old school spiritual dowsers. So dowsing is something that a lot of people know. Oh, yeah, I could find water or I could find oil with dowsing. And yeah, you can, but there's much more to it than just that. You can actually learn how to clear yourself. First, find out if you have attachments daily, then how to clear them. Because you can clear them asking your guides or spirit doctors to be able to help clear you.
Oh, that's so cool.
And just basically use the pendulum.
Yes, use a pendulum. And what I'll do too is I'll add Raymond Grace, or it's Raymond, not Raymond.
Yeah.
Grace.
Raymond. Yeah.
An old salty cowboy.
Yes. So his book, he has a book called, and he has videos on his site too, but the book that's really phenomenal is actually called The Future is Yours. Now do something about it.
I love that. Awesome.
And that book, a friend told me, has a tremendous portion of his entire $500 course to go and study in person with him. The information is in the book. It's like almost the notes from the class. And it's just extremely powerful. Like you'll really, really learn. Like say there's an accident happening at an intersection all the time and you drive by and you're like, damn, there's always a fucking accident there. What the hell? Well, a lot of times there's demons that are present at that intersection that actually stay there causing the accidents.
Wow.
And you can douse for it and find out and then clear that intersection and you'll watch. There's no more accidents after that intersection cleared.
What a cool thing to do.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, I mean, he very rightly says, when you learn how to help people, when you have the tools, it's our personal responsibility to help one another. Right. Because we're not going to make it as a species if we don't start doing that.
Right.
You know, we're just not.
It's like the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. You know, and when you know how to do that, and you're willing to, and you're taking care of your own vehicle and your responsibility for your own life, it starts to become easier to take responsibility for broadening your sphere of influence in a loving, healing way.
Absolutely. So when people have implants, what is an implant? An implant is something that is put there by a being that's not originally from here. Okay.
Here's the alien component.
Yes.
Dog ear.
Yes. So we're talking aliens. So a lot of people go, aliens, I don't believe in aliens.
Right.
Really? Okay. So I found out through asking many, many, many people that only about 30% of Earth's population have done all of their lifetimes here on Earth. The other 70% are originally from somewhere else. We're immigrants.
Oh my gosh, that could start a whole conversation right now.
Yeah. And you can't build a wall. Right?
Yeah, there it is. There's the wall.
So, not for the alien. So it's really wild though. I mean, I have had there's a lot of hypnotherapists that have had a lot of people who have been abducted by aliens.
Right. And do regression specifically for that work.
Exactly. In 33 years, I've only had 2 in 33 years of doing regression work.
I've only had, as far as abductions go, I had one and it turned out she was mentally ill.
Oh, okay. So I've had more often than not people really feeling that they've been abducted and taking them back, and either nothing has happened because it was misconception, or they found out, like the one lady, I belong to MUFON, which is United States' largest organization.
Mutual UFO Network.
Yeah. So basically, they contacted me. And it's the doctors, the medical doctors who are part of MUFON, who saw the exact same things happening in patients, and then found out through doing regressions, we're talking a lot of regressions, that there's this certain race that was causing a lot of this. And there's certain races that are wonderful. They're here to totally help, like everybody from Pleiades, all here to help. And then there's other races that aren't so nice, that kind of see humans as cattle. So those are responsible for a lot of the abductions, or when they're not abducted and just have implants, because they're tracking them to see what their activity is. Number one is the reason why it happens. Number two, it can be
kind of like animal behavior, like when we put in a tracker on some endangered species or something.
Yes, definitely.
There's data collection going on.
The other reason is they will cause basically either physical harm, disease, or more often than not, emotional disturbances in that person. And for example, the one client always, and she cannot, even though I've taught her how, she cannot get rid of them herself. Because I always like to empower everyone to be able to, I'll clear you the first time and I'll teach you how to do it. And then some people just insist on not doing it because they're like, no, I don't even want to, I'll just come in.
Well, but isn't there something about having an attachment too that kind of, because I know when I came to you most recently to clear that past life stuff that I didn't know was past life stuff, it was attachment stuff from a dental procedure.
Yes.
And it was also stuff that needed to be reviewed, and it's super important, and I'm happy to share some more of that. But I know that when I've got something really funky going on, and it's like at the moment that I'm trying to clear it, I'll get distracted. Like my mind will just go blip, and I'm like, wait, what was I doing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
you're right.
Sort of like this mind wipe that happens to distract so that it doesn't get cleared.
Yeah, that can happen. You are correct. So
that's why I call you too.
Maybe that's what's going on with some of the people not being able to do it themselves too. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so we need each other. We healers unite.
Oh my gosh, yes, without a doubt. And but back to the implants. So I always like to find out, like, say if give you a real life scenario, client comes in, do you have any implants when they're in hypnosis? I'm asking. So I'm connecting with their soul. We're scanning their body. And a lot of times they'll go, yes, I have 5. And if it's their first session, a lot of times they'll go, okay, their conscious mind that's still sitting in the background is going,
say, what?
Wait a minute. What is that? but their soul knows exactly what it is, exactly what's going on. So, so I'll explain it to them, and then I'll ask them where they are and what is it doing to you emotionally, so that they realize then what percentage is that causing emotionally what's going on, so that they can understand, number one, when they find out it's something other than their own personality, when it's something outside of them that's causing this, they don't have an attachment to it anymore. It's not my depression or my thing. If it's something else causing it, they're like, holy shit, you know. And when you get rid of those things, then they're able to feel it immediately, a shift. A lot of people feel very light immediately. They're like, I feel so much lighter, like unburdened, like that's crazy. Like, and then some people say, I feel like I'm free. Like I was in some sort of prison, you know, in my body. And it's really amazing because that happens with people often, really often. And then sometimes crazy stuff happens. Like the one lady, well, she had an implant in her head. She got in a major car accident.
So
and her head
was this etheric or physical, or?
It was a physical implant.
Uh-huh.
So even though it's a physical implant, you still get rid of it with energy.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But her head got smacked against the window, damaged the implant, so it was short-circuiting her entire nervous system.
Oh my gosh.
So she had so many health issues, and the doctors couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with her, because that wasn't showing up on anything. But it wasn't until the 5th session with her that I was able to ask the right questions, because her mind was structured in such a way that they didn't ever want it found.
Sure.
So they basically compartmentalized her memory. And back at that point, I didn't know as much as I do now to be able to check for that and be able to get rid of that real quick with energy now. I can pull out any blocks that they put in real easily. I can unmanifest the walls, keeping the knowledge from being there.
Cool.
And then get rid of it. And people, she was like, holy shit, because when we got rid of that, it was like immediately afterwards. Her vision was back to normal. Her walking was back to normal, where before that, I mean, she couldn't even walk a straight line. She was so messed up.
Wow.
And, but yeah, it's incredible, because when you find out what's going on and you get rid of it, you always do have to ask, though, when somebody has implants, you can't assume right away that they're bad. You have to ask, is there any of these that are here for a positive reason? And if there's a yes, then you need to know why. For example, the one gentleman had 3 that were his own from where he was from.
Ooh, like translators, or, you know, to help adapt to the system.
So what they were actually for was this, because I asked Holy Spirit, okay, tell me more about what's going on. And I heard, so another race affected him to basically knock these 3 implants, which were from his own planet, out of balance. Well, these implants allow him, when they are balanced, to be able to heal people just by being within 6 feet. So when you're in with 6 feet of him, those implants would basically balance your energy in your body and get rid of imbalances, whether emotional or otherwise, when he's balanced. But of course, races that don't want that happening are going to make sure it don't happen.
Right, right. Sense? It does. And it also brings in, and I don't want to cut you off here, but I do want to bring in, because I think this is a natural question for people to have, is the relationship in this space of free will, and how that plays into part, and how difficult it is to stay away from the victim mentality when you're like, I'm being attacked, and somehow feeling like I'm just a victim in all of this, and where is my free will?
Yeah. Oh, you always have free will, which is why you can always get healthy unless, and even then you can get healthy. But say if what came in is there any circumstances where that doesn't come into play? A lady with stage 4 cancer came in the one time, and she said, I'm hearing no to healing my cancer. She said, my soul is saying no. I said, okay. So I took her back in between life, and she remembered that she agreed to teach her son and her daughter life lessons by having cancer and going back to the spirit. But she said, now that I remember, though, she said, I'm like totally at peace with it. Like I totally was thinking I'm a victim and I've been such a good person and how could this happen to me? And she goes, now I'm going, I am really a good person. That's why I got it. Because this is what I, agreed
Signed
to
on
help them
for
with this loss. So that is going to make them so much stronger. And she goes, I'm totally cool with it. But that's been my only case of cancer with a person that I was not permitted to heal her because that was not what was supposed to happen.
That happened
wasn't
to my
what she wanted to
father.
happen.
That happened
Did
to
it?
yeah. So he didn't,
Wow.
he wasn't offered healing. But he was a doctor, and it wasn't, I want to sort of summarize it. He wasn't meant to be healed. He was meant to be here as a representation of, a family member lost early. He
Okay.
actually, in my very first, past life regression in training, I was the demo, and I went down, and then my dad he died in 2003, downloaded all of this information, and I was apparently just like this emotional wreck, like so emotional that they had to clear the room. But what I got in that experience was, this is what I signed on for, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave you guys, but that's what I signed on for. And you look at the experiences that you've had as a result of that. And he's in my life every day, and he's a part of my healing team that I work with. So I have I have an evolved relationship with him. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty, it's a powerful, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think that victim dynamic is so easy to have in this world, especially with all of the finger pointing and, oh, the chemtrails are making me sick, or this or that. And I think that we all get to examine, if we want, our relationship to what we're allowing to affect us. And just like today, right before the call, you guys, Michael was helping me clear out this cough that I've had. And I had to sort of look at some of the stuff that's coming up. We always got stuff that we can review and reinterpret and release.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've come to know over the years is any kind of ailments that we have can be communication. So that's always the first thing that I always try and do with people is find out, is this communication? Is this our body talking to us? Because quite often it is, but not all the time. Sometimes there's no communication. Sometimes it's a conditioned response from something in the past. Other times,
like a trauma.
Yes, exactly. It's a conditioned response from a trauma, and it could be here, it could be from another world, it could be from all kinds of different things. So we're all the time taking in information through all of our senses, and we're relating that to things from the past. Give you a good example of that real quick, because I just think it's powerful to people to understand that relationship of conditioned responses. A dad brings in his son who has typical allergies: runny nose, watery eyes, scratchy throat. Okay. So I bring up in hypnosis, I magnify those symptoms really, really strong. So that creates an affect bridge of emotion that comes up. And the emotion that comes up, watery eyes, runny nose, scratchy throat. What's it sound like? Which emotion?
Grief.
Exactly. So that emotion of grief, really, really strong, I have him travel back on that emotion. So basically the verbiage is 5, you're feeling that as strong as you've ever felt, that sadness, that grief that you're feeling so strong right now. 4, that grief takes you back in time. 3, back to a situation, place. 2, an event, time, or lifetime that has everything to do with how this event originally began. And 1, be there. And he starts bawling.
People are going to be watching this going through like, ah!
I love it. So he starts bawling, and he's 3 years old in this lifetime, and he's going out for a walk with mom and the dogs, and it's fall. Well, 3 never really noticed fall when he was 2 or 1. So at 3, though, he loved trees. He had gotten to the thing where he just absolutely loved trees, loved being outdoors, loved going for a walk with mom and the dogs. Well, it was fall, and it was windy that day, and all the leaves were falling off the trees. Well, 3 didn't realize they were okay. He thought they were all dying at the same time. All of his favorite trees, and everywhere he looked around, they were all, in that moment, all dying.
Oh,
so
devastating.
It's a horrible trauma. As he's smelling the smells, as he's seeing the sights, all of this gets recorded in his subconscious as this huge trauma, this huge loss. So what do we do to fix it? I take his 10-year-old self back before that happens. And we tell 3 the truth. Hey, you're going to go out for a walk with mom and the dogs. And you're going to notice that the leaves are falling off the trees. But it's perfectly normal. They're perfectly healthy. They lose their leaves at this time every year. And they're going to keep them off all winter long. Then they're going to grow them back again in the spring. And it shows us the cycle of life. And it's awesome. So are you excited to go see the leaves fall off the trees? So 3's like, oh yeah, let's do it. So now 3's all pumped up. He knows what's going to happen ahead of time. So we're rewriting his past, and we're installing a brand new condition response, because we always have condition responses. It's just depending on if they're something we enjoy or not.
Right. Well, would you also, I mean, another question is that time travel, right? Like, is that him going back and telling the younger version of him how to manage that experience so that he'll have a different timeline unfold?
Very good question. I never really thought of it that way, and I've taken people back with their past lives. So moved 2 tons of times. So it could be. I mean,
a conscious,
possible.
A conscious astronaut in a way.
Yeah,
like you're going through space and time. You're correcting a timeline.
Exactly. So what happens is the end result. We take 3 outside. We have him smell the smells. We have him see the sights, being all excited, and we allow him to know, isn't it wonderful that you're going to be so excited every year at this time of year? Well, instantly, no more runny eyes, watery nose, scratchy throat. A lot of happiness, but he can deal with it. So
yeah,
he's very happy to be happy in fall now every year.
That is so cool. I'm going to totally do that. I have a 10-year-old with allergies, so obviously that was partially for me.
Dude, I tell you what, I have worked with everything with allergies over the years. In fact, there is no one that I've ever worked with that I haven't been able to help. I have 100% success in getting rid of people's allergies.
Well, so, you've already taught me the technique, but if mom can't take him back, which I've already taken him to 3 lives.
Oh, dude, you'll be fine.
Yeah, he's good at it. Yeah, he's had lifetimes of a lot of abandonment too. Anyway, but it's fun to travel with him to those places.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He was a slave. He was killed in World War II and abandoned there. We went on an abandonment stuff.
it's just amazing all the different things that can happen.
And that we carry.
I remember I was shooting a TV commercial, and my daughter was on. Excuse me, that's my hobby, is shooting commercials. It is.
I love that. I know. I just get a kick out of that. Yeah.
What do you do for fun? I shoot TV commercials. It's my hobby. That and,
so cool.
And writing short films and shooting short films in the future, and my daughter's a filmmaker too. But she was actually running sound, and we just finished up this commercial for this restaurant. And I looked at her and I'm like, "Oh, you're in really bad pain. What's that? What's going on?" And she's like, "It feels like somebody sliced me up both sides of my stomach." Oh. And I was like, "All right, let's go out in the car and I'll put you in hypnosis in the car." And she goes, No. Got to wait till we get home. I was like, "Why? It's like a freaking 40-minute drive." And she goes, "Can't do it in the car. Can't do it. Got to wait till we get home." So she's
and
like,
that was her guidance. Her guidance was telling her she had to wait.
She just doesn't like to do hypnosis in the car. Like even emergency hypnosis, she has to be at her house.
The things our kids have to deal with.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
No more hypnosis in the car. I'm just putting a foot down.
I love it. That's great. That's great. So we get home. I regress her back. And here she's this Japanese woman who fought in all these sword fights to the death. And she's this championship sword fighter, killed all these people. Well, she fought a guy who was actually better than her, and he bested her. And he cut her up both sides of her stomach and 2 slits in the back. So I had to take her back to the restaurant because I wasn't getting.
That sounds fatal.
What? Oh yeah, she died. I wasn't getting what was the condition response that caused that. So we went back to the restaurant, and here it was somebody there, a soul at the restaurant. So I had to release all that trauma. I had to release that trauma from the past.
Was that him? Was it the guy? Was it the guy who killed her?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I had to release that out of the cells of her body. And all of her pain went away. And a lot of times chronic pain is caused by this. When we're holding on to any emotion in the body, especially in the muscles, it creates what's called a mild oxygen deprivation. So it just means not enough oxygen getting into the muscles, which creates a tremendous amount of pain. When we get rid of whatever that emotion is in the muscles, that oxygen flows back in, especially when we suggest it to, and all the pain goes away. And they're totally fine. So within a half hour, we worked through everything we needed to work through with that. She was completely back to normal again. And she goes, "What the fuck would have happened if I had a normal dad?" She said, they would have took me to the hospital. They'd have found nothing, that I'd have been on painkillers. I wouldn't have got rid of the issue. I'd have been on painkillers probably the rest of my life. That had me on a damn morphine drip or some stupid shit.
The life trajectory would have totally. Well, that's why we need to have an infinite number of goes at it, because we just think how many times that kind of a situation has pretty much led to the end of a lifetime. Oh yeah, just tremendously. I mean, like, it's a gentleman coming into mind that vertigo was a conditioned response. He was bench pressing and right away got lightheaded, had to yell for someone to help, and they ran over and grabbed the weights off of him. Well, it was like 3 months afterwards, he still had vertigo every day. And the doctors checked. Sometimes when that happens to us, it's because of the crystals in our ears can get unseated, and we have to do a hall pike maneuver to get them reseated. They call it epilay and hall pike. Anyways. You can look that up. There are exercises. Yeah, and sometimes that is what happens, and that's the first thing you want to check for is this physical? Do your crystals just need reseated? Because when they do, you reseat them, they may throw up or not. I've done it with people. And then they're back to normal again. And they're fine.
But anyways, with him, there were 5 lifetimes. That was a conditioned response to pushing a rock off of him. Because it was back in a caveman lifetime, he got smacked in the head with a big rock. So that created dizziness. Well, there were 5 lifetimes he got smacked from the front. There were 6 lifetimes he got smacked from the back of the head. And we had to work through all of them in order to get rid of
all of these lifetimes
trauma.
To repair the trauma. Here's your opportunity again.
That was, yeah, we had to work through all of them in order to get through the trauma that was causing that conditioned response. Wow. And as soon as we did, though, immediately all of his vertigo went away and he was totally fine. Awesome. So there's so many health issues.
Tinnitus.
So many.
People have this really negative response to tinnitus, and it's like, why does it have to be a bad thing to be hearing? I think it's hearing energy. Personally.
So it can be spiritual downloads. Number one, that can cause it. Number 2, it can be a conditioned response to explosions and trauma from that. A lot of times from war, I've had that happen a lot with people.
Right.
And that's the most common causes of it. One good with the downloads, the other one not so good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, a lot of the people that I've worked with have had it real strong, though, to the point where it makes life very, very uncomfortable until they get rid of it.
Yeah, I had a friend who killed himself.
Wow.
Because of it. Yeah, he was just suffering so much. And it was a shock. But I think too, suicide is one of those things that I think is often misunderstood as well, that people you know, and I don't want to get into a whole long drawn out discussion, but just holding space for a person who's having a rough go.
Definitely.
You know, but I think also suicide can be a tendency that is a progressive theme experience that people are having to figure out how to manage, you know?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I've taken a lot of people over the years to talk to their loved ones who've committed suicide so that they could explain to them why they did it. Sometimes it was part of lessons that they were teaching. Other times they were just like, you know,
I got to get out of here.
I just basically had it and said, screw it. You know, all the rest of the stuff I had planned, I'll do it in the next life. You know, and I'm sorry I had to go, but I just couldn't take the shit anymore. And here's what was really going on. But when they explained it, it really was very healing for the people who were here left, because until then, they had a lot of unanswered questions. But then when they got the questions answered, so much better.
Well, and sometimes souls are ambitious and they'll come in.
Put way too much on their plate. Oh my God, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I have a friend who I believe that happened to relatively recently, March 2017. And he was a college friend, and I was working with him. But there was just something he had so much trauma from such an early age, and it was just insurmountable for him, you know?
Right.
And it happens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I'm sure we probably all like just in lifetimes, like, screw this. I'm uncle, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair.
It's I mean, it's amazing the how much, like you said, that we will put on our plate. Sometimes in ultimate reality, we're with God, and where we're playing to be, part of us stays in the spirit world. We split our essence to be here. We split our essence again if we're back in the spirit world and someone's thinking about us here. we can come back, be in the spirit world doing stuff, and be in another incarnation all at the same time. We can also come into a lifetime and decide, hey, these experiences that I want to have, I'm going to double it up. So we'll split our lessons in between 2 incarnations in 1 lifetime. I've had people do that.
Oh, like to lighten the load during a current lifetime, like to renegotiate? Or
no, because they want to experience the most amount that they can of whatever lesson it is. So they will actually be in 2 different bodies. Their one soul is split in 2 different bodies.
Oh, like parallel lives.
Yeah, only it's not parallel. It's here,
Different.
both in 2 incarnations.
Oh, now.
But they're trying to, of course, it's very taxing for a soul to be in 2 bodies at the same time, having the same, sometimes rough experiences is really, really taxing.
Wow. I've never heard of that. That's trippy.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it doesn't surprise me. I've definitely had parallel lifetimes where one's here and one's on a different planet.
So that's another thing, if people don't know, that you also have to check for. When whatever they're coming in for, like the one lady, she said, I don't understand how I could possibly have depression. She goes like, I'm embarrassed to have it. Cause she said like, I've had wonderful parents. I've had wonderful friends. Like my life's like fucking perfect other than the fact I have massive depression. She said like, it's perfect, like literally perfect. So I was like, okay, so we do hypnosis and I'm checking on it. She had no attachments, which is weird. She had no attachments. She had no implants. She had like no nothing.
Wow.
And so I'm going throughout all different things and I'm like, all right, Holy Spirit, what's going on with her? And I heard, okay, her parallel self is in peril and another parallel lifetime. And she has a lot of bleed through between those lifetimes. Wow. So I asked her, I said, okay, we can do 2 things. I would rather work and help that parallel self, get them okay, then close the bleed through instead of just closing it. And she said, oh yeah, we need to help them. I'm definitely here and we need to help them. So we did. We worked on them and got them through all their emotional turmoil. Then we closed the bleed through and all of her depression went away and she was completely fine. But that's another thing that can cause issues. But you can also do cool shit though too. Because you can contact parallel selves. Like my daughter knows this. My daughter knows everything there is to know because she's always asking me questions.
Yeah, because she's your daughter.
When she was like, how old was she? She was 11, I guess. And she said, hey, I need to contact a parallel self. And I was like, okay. I said, what do you want to do? And she goes, I knew what she's thinking. And she goes, all right, I want to contact a parallel self who's a hair designer because I want to know how to braid my hair with one hand in very complex ways.
Wow.
And she said, the reason why I want to learn how to do this is, she said, I'm having difficulty in my classes because of the fact that my mind's not taxed enough. And she's the type of person that needs to be multitasking big time. She needs a big load for her to feel comfortable. If she only
my son's that way too.
She only has one thing to focus on, she's like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. This is all there is to do. Like, this is not enough.
She came for big stuff.
Yeah. So we contacted a parallel self and she explained things that she knew that they wanted to know. And they in turn taught her how to do, how to braid her hair with one hand and do all kind of complex braids. And
so cool.
And that's what she would do in school then. She would braid her hair while she was doing her schoolwork.
Well, just think of how many people like use drugs or do things that are like self-harm, things that are damaging to them because of that very same issue. That they're probably just not being they're
taxed enough.
they're not being taxed, they're not being actualized to the extent that they are needing to in order to expand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. We're going to need to talk about more of this, so you're just going to have to come on for a part 3.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll tell you real quick about another client that's coming in mind to tell you about. So MUFON contacted me, the medical division, and they said, hey, can we interview you? So they came in and they basically interviewed me for a position to have the doctors refer me patients. So I passed, and so they send me patients who either they're sure now recently have been abducted, or there's evidence that they've been abducted. But I think it's really cute because more often than not, the people that they send me that seem to have evidence, they find out that they haven't been abducted, but they're also not from here at all. So the one lady where they came and watched her session, she goes, I vividly remember being 5 years old and I'm floating above my bed.
Wow.
And was she? Yeah, she actually was. But it's because her grandmother came to visit her and was floating her above the bed. She remembered what planet she's from. She remembered why she's here, and she's done like 30-some lifetimes, her and one other gentleman from our planet, all researching pain and suffering, and then reporting that back to her planet so that they can avoid that on their planet where they're from. And she said, this is the perfect world to research pain and suffering. So I was like, oh yeah. But she goes, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. And my husband's always like, why do you have to have 4 different news channels on at one time looking at all this horrific stuff? Why would you do that? And she goes, now I know. Now I know why. But she remembered everything from her planet. And so I'm asking her questions about her planet, and I'm asking questions about energy in particular. And she goes, okay, I understand what you're doing. And she said, do you want me to tell you our source of energy, because you're thinking about using it there, which is basically the Tesla coil just perfected. And she said, actually, and knew the exact date here on Earth that we've already done it. We've already perfected it. And she said, it's just due to greed of your coal and your oil industry that you'll never probably see it in, another 100 lifetimes here. But you've already perfected energy where it's unlimited, completely unlimited. And I was like, wow. So she said, yeah, don't even waste your time. It's already been done.
Wow.
Been there, done that.
I believe that. I believe that 100%.
I was like, wow, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, so wild, so wild too. And I love when people find out, that they're from somewhere else. Did I tell you about the girl from kindergarten?
No, but it totally,
right, real quick.
Quick question. Do you get told by other healers that you're not from here?
Me? Oh, yeah.
Well, and it's so funny. Like, do you know where you're from, Pleiades?
Yeah.
Okay, so people always are. I get a lot of people who are starseeds in my practice, and they just sort of seem to come out of the woodworks. My very first client that I was practicing with in my training, starseed, and I was just like, oh, good thing I believe this already, so I know how to deal with this.
Right.
It was totally not, what the session was, what I was inducing for.
Right.
But I keep getting, you're not from here, like that kind of thing. I get that all the time, but that hasn't been my experience that it's revealed to me. And I think part of it is because I don't really care. That's not really like, I'm an earthling right now. And I get that I'm multidimensional. So whether I was like, in a different star system or not, like, sure. Okay. Yeah. Like it's sort of like a sum of the parts kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. I tell you what, I've had so many clients over the years channel, and then smack me down. I'm like the one client channeled, she goes, you know David and Goliath, right? And I was like, yeah, of course I know the story. And she goes, it's not a story, and you were David. And you were not supposed to do that in that lifetime. That screwed up so much stuff. And you have to be very, very careful of your power and energy, that you always stay in the light and always focus on healing. Because you could go dark and really screw shit up. Not that you were dark in that lifetime, she said, but you could. So I'm just supposed to tell you, stay in the light. Don't misuse the power, because you did some other lifetimes. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I've heard about some of them already.
But I think that's what makes you such a great healer. It doesn't scare you because you come by it honestly. And I also can relate to that too. I mean, as you know, I've had some very dark lifetimes that I've explored. All power and greedy and just all jacked up. And I think we all have that choice, right? Like choosing the light or not. I'm just sort of bored with the dark. Been there, done that. I think my guides told me, there's no stone left unturned with you.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah. And so maybe you guys watching can relate to some of this. And I really,
it's so fascinating.
tell the kindergarten and whoever is staying with us, they're just going to get a nice, juicy, long
so
recording.
my very first client that found out she was from another world many years ago, it was so cute because she goes, oh my gosh, I'm not from here. I'm not from here at all. I'm from this planet. And she goes, and my husband's not from this planet. He's from this other planet. And she goes, and now kindergarten makes so much sense. And I said, okay, tell me about kindergarten. What's going on with kindergarten? And she said, I vividly remember my first day of kindergarten. And the teacher said to us, I'm going to go around the room and I want you to tell me what your name is and what you want to do for a living when you get older. So the one person's like, I'm Sally, I want to be a baker. And she's like, I'm George, I want to be a lawyer. Somebody wanted to be a cop. And she said, it gets to me. And she said, I said my name. I'm not going to say what her name was. She said, I said my name. And then she said, I'm just here to save the world. That's why I'm here. I said, oh my God, that's perfect. I said, what did the teacher say? She said, she just laughed.
Just like, okay, I'm going to keep my eyes.
She said, I was totally serious though. I was completely serious. Just here to save the world.
Well, I wonder what it meant when they asked my brother and he said he wanted to be a garbage truck.
You wanted to be a garbage truck?
He didn't want to be a garbage car driver. He wanted to be a garbage truck.
Wow, I love it.
Well, he's a pilot, so maybe sort of lost in translation when he was little.
Yeah, I love it.
But there's something interesting about that little time frame of like 3, 4, 5, and maybe a little bit 6, where it's like this window of remembrance, almost like a last look or like a download time. Because that's when I had my first like conscious metaphysical experience, where I was we lived in a haunted house in Texas, and but I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw a light being like head to toe light, and in my awareness they were walking outside on the sidewalk, and I like tried to wake my brother up, finally woke him up, it was gone. And I tried to wake my mom up and I made them come outside. It was right here. And it wasn't, and I call it my light man. And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that I wasn't seeing it with my vision. I was seeing it with my inner vision. And this was just like a visit of my guides, because it felt lovely, didn't feel bad, felt reassuring. And I was 5 years old.
Wow. I love it. Love it.
Maybe you can share that too, audience. Share your metaphysical experiences when you were kids.
Oh yeah. I can remembering past lives when I was little. Wow. And then for a lot of years, I didn't remember anymore. And then more recently, through doing regressions, and more recently, like, things will happen and I'll remember vividly other lifetimes, which is always fun. You know, it's always fun to remember them. Not always that fun stuff happened, but just, it's just so cool though, because it's like, okay, if you have a jigsaw puzzle and all the middle pieces of the puzzle are missing, it's really hard to put the damn thing together. Where when you've learned about your past, now you have all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle and you can put it together and the damn thing makes sense now.
Totally.
And that's how I explain to people doing past life regressions, because it's learning more about your soul, your experiences, why you are now the soul that you are because of your experiences that you've had. What have you learned? What do you want to experience? You know, that's what you're here to do, is experience whatever it is you want.
I love that. I call that geologic memory. So, or remembering your soul from a geologic level, because that's my archaeology speaking. And it's like, you can remember this little time frame, this little epic in your existence, which is right now, but wouldn't you like to know the entire timeline?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when people go, like, I remember working with a director, and his very first regression, he found out not only was he from a different world, but he's traveled to many, many, many different worlds. And he remembered all of them in his first regression. And he said, wow, no wonder I'm so into space and I'm so into sci-fi movies. He goes, that makes total sense. I remember it all now. Like, I've lived it. That's why I love it, because it reminds me of home. You know, that's just so awesome.
Yeah,
and
you
being
learn
able to put that together. Yeah.
That's about your interests and desires and what makes your soul light up. Makes perfect sense.
It's so awesome. It's just, it is. It's just, it's so amazing to be able to do that. And a lot of people go, well, I don't believe in that, because a lot of people are say that they're the same historic people. And I've never found that to be factual. I've never had anybody be the same person twice. I've never had anybody say, hey, I'm this person. Have you?
Yeah, I have. But what I think, the way that makes sense to me is it's more of, because the mind likes to work in symbol and imagery and story. And I think that for whatever reason, the person is really responding to the lessons, or it was JFK. I've had two people going back to lifetimes of JFK. And what it to me meant was, I was getting the leadership component, like what's important for us to glean from this, and what is important. So, and I think too, like just becoming more adept at this work, it's also kind of a deepening thing too. Like, I think people's conscious mind can interfere and like, I won't say color it, but prevent like the real deeper stuff to come in. But that's exactly,
I got you.
The lesson is still just as important, which is what are the elements to be gleaned from this lifetime that can support you in your current life, and what can be released, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
It is so cool.
It's endless.
Really is.
We could talk forever. And so what we'll do is we'll save it for next time, but I want you to plug yourself, and I'll plug you too. MichaelRweir.com, and he likes the www. But I'm sure you can find him if you look up Michael R. Weir, and that's WEIR.com. Yeah. And what else do you want to share? Are you, I know you're incredibly busy. What is your ideal client work?
My ideal client work, I love doing subconscious therapy. A lot of people will come in for life coaching and therapy to work on a mixture of health issues and emotional issues. Typical emotional issues, how do they deal with the stress of their life better? How do they, when they find out, like some of them don't know, they were referred basically just for therapy work. And then they find out that can work with health issues. And they're like, oh my gosh, we get rid of my IBS. So we'll get rid of their IBS, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Oh, I also have this ailment. Let's get rid of that. So I love working with health issues and emotional issues. And just typical therapy work and life coaching is probably my favorite thing to work with. That's what I do the most of. I don't see people to quit smoking, and I'm a hypnotherapist. I don't see anybody to quit smoking at all. I refer that out. I refer out weight loss. Not that I can't do those, but those are the normal things that there are people in Pittsburgh who are amazing at doing those and really want to work with that don't really work with the health issues as much. So I refer them, and when people actually ask them about health issues, they refer the people with health issues to me. Good. Yeah, that's pretty much my favorite. And I still love doing regressions, and a lot of times with health issues, we end up doing past life regressions, getting the roots of them. And like the allergies we were talking about, if they asked me to be on a big radio show in Pittsburgh, but it was a Christian station, which a tremendous amount of people listen to. And they said, we can't talk about past lives. Well, the physician who came in, who I worked with, it was 3 past lifetimes is where his weed allergy was from. So I was like, dude, how are we going to talk about you, who's going to be on the show? And none of it was current life at all. The actual root of it was 3 different lifetimes. What's that?
What'd you do? What'd you end up doing?
So I didn't do the show.
Wow.
I was like, I can't do the show and talk about allergies and not talk about life.
Good for you.
It's not going to happen. I don't care if I'm going to get a lot of clients from it. They're just not doing it. You want me to talk about something else that won't involve past lives? Sure. I can talk about other health issues that aren't as often from past lives, but not allergies, because a lot of times that gets into past life.
That
More
is
often
super
than
cool.
not, the root isn't just in this lifetime. Generally, this lifetime, if there's events, they're compounding events, not the initial event that started it all. But
well, let's bring this full circle. So I think it was Paul Arend who was telling me that there was a scary movie and an actor who was in a really scary movie that had some kind of haunting going on as a result. Do you remember that story that you need to clear? No? Okay.
I work with?
Yeah, that's how Paul recommended you. Do you have any stories of
I know who you're talking about.
Oh, okay, good.
Now I know who you're talking about. Give me a second. Okay, I'm trying to think of how I can be vague enough that nobody would know who they are.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to. Well, I think what I'm interested in is how when you're submerging yourself into an experience, even if it's theatrical, even if it's made up, that you can still pick stuff up. And that
wait a minute. Say that again.
So so if a person is participating in a movie and it's like a slasher movie, or it's like really dark or like evil, conjuring, that kind of stuff, that you can be more susceptible to picking that stuff up. Or if they're in a location, maybe it's a location thing where they're picking stuff up like at an old scary prison or whatever. I don't know.
This person, I can't tell you it's an actress. I just can't tell you who. This person, extremely, extremely, extremely wonderful soul, and does a lot of those kinds of films, and does get attachments from doing those, but more so often because she does so much philanthropy work. She does a lot of helping humanity and is really focused on helping every person she meets. And in real life, she's like this amazingly, amazingly loving, gentle, kind soul who would do anything for anyone. And her screen characters are quite different. But she did get lots of attachments, and mainly though because she's a really, really good person in real life. So it
wasn't actually the scary movies. It was that she's doing really good work and that she's drawing negative attention.
Yeah, if you're a person who decides yourself to be dark, well, darkness doesn't really have a need to attach to you because you've already chosen it.
Right.
They're going to leave you alone. But if on the other hand, you are doing lots of good for humanity and helping lots of people, and like she does, then you're going to get, spirits that are going to come after you, and some people. But anyways, and I it's so cool because I ended up becoming very good friends with her.
Cool.
And that led to many, many other stars and screenwriters and directors, and getting to work with lots of people in Hollywood.
That's fun. That must be fun. You're gonna have to write your memoir soon.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, I don't know what I can actually write because there's so many people. I can't say anything because they're still and they're still stars. So of course I can't even say that what their name is, that I even work with them, because if it negatively affected their career, saying that they had stuff and maybe people would so I can't say anything I can't tell anybody at all. Only Paul's the only one that knows because he referred me. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and he didn't tell me who it was, so I have no idea. And you can all let your imaginations run wild. But thank you, Michael, so much for being on the show. This has been such a fun conversation, and of course we're
you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, always.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you all send in your questions, and if there are any things that have been brought up that you don't understand, we'd love to hear how that goes, and we can address them in the next conversation with Michael. And until then, take good care, you all, and just keep shining your bright light. All right, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yay, bye.